my worst enemy. The flesh that's covering me brings me down to my knees.
Welcome to Sermons in the Park, a ministry exploring biblical truth from the Word of God, focusing on the truths that help us in our daily walk with Christ in every aspect of our lives. Now, here is your Reverend Jamie McCaskill.
Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to an all-new Sermons in the Park. As always, I am your Reverend Jamie McCaskill. This is another one of these little surprise short sermons that's just another one, like I said, it's been on my mind. And in this modern world that we live in, a modern world that has become obsessed with what they like to call diversity, you have out there in the world this rise in people who are pointing their finger at someone and calling them some sort of ist or phobe or something, right? And because of this, it's led me to really want to do an episode, especially this one you're listening to today. You see, some of you know, if you've listened to me long enough, I am from the South. And the South is an area in the United States. If you're outside this country, you might not know this. People call the South the most racist. Why? Because of the history of the South. They like to, the slavery issue. Not only that, but I'm also from a state that, again, is often called the most racist state. That's being Louisiana. And I can tell you that I've met more racist people since I left the South and moved to the North. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't blame that on the people up here. I just feel it's more the media that we're under right now. A government that's wishing to cause division among people by pushing diversity issues. Let me give you an example. In researching for this sermon, I found an interview that was conducted, and now I'm not going to name it. I'm not even going to name the channel or anything. But I found this interview that was conducted by one of the major radio shows here in the United States. Let me just say this. It's one of the most popular. And in this interview, the host was talking to some Muslims. And these Muslims started talking about, the Muslims didn't start talking about it, but the host brought up Islamic terrorism. And basically what the host did is he asked, what is it about Islam that seems to attract or instigate violence? And just like in my own experience, this is a subject that Muslims typically are taught to avoid. They are taught literally to avoid it, to basically turn it another way. And that's what we saw. Automatically, these Muslims that they were talking about turned it around, and they responded in a typical fashion. This is their answer. We could ask the same thing about Christianity. After all, the KKK is a Christian organization. If you honestly sit down and do some research on the Klan, and not do what people typically do, where they'll plug their ears, they'll squeeze their eyes shut, and they'll no, don't want to hear it. They'll scream that they don't care. If you don't do that, and you just do some research, what you would learn is that the KKK, or as it's known as the Ku Klux Klan, has changed or evolved over time. Originally, the KKK had very, very little to do with race. Now, I'm going to get to that in a minute. What I'm hoping to do today is show you that the Klan, as it exists today, has no direct ties to the Klan from back in the 19th century or even the early 20th century. Most people who understand the history will generally tell you that the Klan has had 3 or 4 different manifestations, okay? Now, the original Klan, as it started, was that it started right after the Civil War, during a time that we here in the United States like to call the Reconstruction. What you had is you had all of these Confederate veterans and Southern citizens, right, who were watching their very way of life, poof, just vanish right before their own eyes. All of these people that these Southerners called Yankee carpetbaggers, all of them and these freed slaves were taking what these Southern citizens honestly felt belonged to them. So what happened was they organized in an attempt to prevent the decline of Southern culture. Now, I'm not going to argue the point that they did seek to bring back slavery, right? But this specific incarnation of the Klan, it just kind of faded away at the end of the Reconstruction. And it wasn't seen again. And then at the end of World War I, what happened was, here in the United States, we saw a rise of this second incarnation of the Klan. What started this one? Well, all of the jobs were becoming hard to find in some areas. And a lot of white men felt that their jobs had been taken away by African American men. So the KKK was reborn as a way of intimidating these men. What they hoped to do was, if they could intimidate these men, these African American men, and scare them off, and then a white man could come in and take that job. Now, sadly, this did take on the form of violence. And yes, sadly again, and depressingly, this included lynchings. During that time, the federal government, they stepped in, right? They focused on prosecuting the crimes of these Klansmen. And what happened? Once again, the Klan just faded away. And then what happened in the 50s and 60s? Come on now, think about it. Integration. We had the civil rights being legislated by the government. The people of the South, they saw this as, once again, federal intervention. And that's why we saw the third incarnation of the Klan. Now, it's very possible that the modern Klan, the Klan we have today, can trace its roots back to this particular incarnation of the Klan from the time period we just spoke about. But the Klan today, they operate more as a political party. Now, I want to make sure you understand something. That name, the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, is not trademark. Any group of people can get together and call themselves the KKK or the Ku Klux Klan. All of them can have different belief systems, and they can practice however they want. Just like any other group today that comes together and says, guess what? We're Christian. Now, let's talk about what this is about. And that is, is the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, Christian? Now, in doing that, let's do something. What we're going to do, we're going to take the largest KKK affiliated group that exists today. We're going to take them and we're going to look at them. This is a group known as the Knights Party. When you look them up, what you'll find is they clearly promote themes that do appear, okay, they do appear to be evangelical Christians. to see this, I want you to, if you go search for yourself, look for the annual Faith and Freedom Conference. This is something that's held at Soldiers of the Cross Bible Camp. Soldiers of the Cross Bible Camp. And this is what they call it. This is on their own thing. They call it 3 family-friendly days. And when you look under the activities, again, it looks Christian, doesn't it? They hold Bible studies. They hold gospel music concerts. And and this is what they tell guests. They tell the guests that they're expected to exhibit Christian behavior. Again, I'm inviting you. Go look up their website. I did. There you'll see where they say that they want to extend the blessings of Christ to all, regardless of color or race. That's right. And then they have a requirement for membership there. You'll see that it says that you have to profess a belief in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Not only that, they're pro-life. They support traditional marriage. Oh, wow. They promote homeschooling. They claim that they do not hate any other race or religion, right? They emphasize that the United States was founded as a white Christian, and they make sure you understand Protestant as well, nation. They say that they want you to, or I should say that they say they want you, they say they want to restore the foundation that, as far as they can see, being eroded away by the increase of non-white, non-Christian population. One thing I found with them is how, unlike the KKK groups from the past, they disavow hatred, they disavow violence, regardless of race in the United States. That it would benefit, the United States would benefit from returning to that foundation. But, capital B here, but, they do make it clear that the foundation that they're speaking about would mean that the white population would be the majority. That the white population would firmly control all aspects of the government or society and the culture. Now I want you to notice something. I told you the Knights Party and most other KKK groups claim to be Christian. But you see, what a lot of people don't understand, especially non-Christians, is that just because you claim to be a Christian, that's completely different than actually being a Christian. Anyone can say they are. Anyone. But that doesn't make them one. When you look at what Jesus said over in Matthew chapter 7, verses 22 to 23, what does Jesus say there? He says, "Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you, depart from me, ye that work iniquity." So as you can see right there, just claiming the name of Christ does not make that person or that organization Christian. Now, if the Klan was still doing that same stuff that they used to do in the past, lynching people, committing bombings, showing blatant white supremacy, boy, wouldn't it be easier to answer when people say that they're Christian? But since most of these modern KKK groups disavow these things, they separate themselves from it, the answer has become more nuanced. So I will show you. Can a group that actually practices biblical Christianity exclude people based off their ethnicity or their race? And the answer is a very hard no. When you read the gospel, you will see accepting all races based on faith in Jesus as the central thing. When you read Galatians chapter 2, you'll see where Peter separated himself, right? Basically, they were having this big meal, and Peter comes in, and he separates himself from the Gentiles. He won't eat with them. We see Paul confront him. Paul points out to Peter that his conduct is contrary to the gospel, to the true biblical gospel. Galatians chapter 2, verse 14. This is what you'll read. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all. Means he called him out right in front of everybody. If thou, being a Jew, livest after the manner of Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews? The central issue here is this. No matter who you are, no matter what race you are, God accepts you based on one thing. And that one thing is faith in Jesus. And for someone to stand up and claim anything else, that is a denial in the efficiency of the gospel. In the New Testament, we see a vision of the church. In it, we see the church made up of people from every race, every group, everyone. All of them are joining in praise. Revelation chapter 7, verses 9 and 10. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. If this is the goal of God, then any group who claims to be Christian cannot make a distinction based on what? Race. As a Christian, we are reminded to be humble, to be generous, just like Jesus. Look at Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. And you heard what I said the Knights want, right? When you look at the modern KKK, one thing that rings very loud and very clear is they're fighting for the rights of their people. And by their people, I mean white people. They're excluding. You see, when you focus on your own rights, when you are the main focus, you're neglecting and excluding the rights of everybody else. Whether you're white and it's black, or you're black and it's white, or you're red and it's green, it doesn't matter. When you're focusing on what is your own, you're excluding everybody else. That is as unchristian as you can be. So to answer the main question, the Klan of the 19th and early 20th century, they were unchristian in their own beliefs and as well as their own actions. I mean, look at the things they did. They were horrible. It was disgusting. But when you look at the modern Klan, even though they've no longer practice that stuff, even though they no longer do that, they preach nonviolence, all that stuff, even though they do that, they still have beliefs that are unbiblical. And since they're unbiblical, they're unchristian. When you look at them, you will find all the major Christian denominations out here, they reject the Klan. Why? Because they're not Christian. So you can't point your finger at the Klan and say that's a Christian group. They're not. I reject them. I will stand with anyone who's fighting against them. They're not Christian. So, I want to thank you all for joining me here. I pray the Lord continues to bless and keep you, and I'll see you all soon. I love you. God bless you.
You have been listening to Sermons in the Park with Reverend Jamie McCaskill. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. And as always, thank you for listening.
There's joy for the morning, sinner be still. Earth has no sorrow, heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow, heaven can't heal. So lay down your